This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, March 24th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Tom Homan says the administration won't defy a court order to deport Venezuelan immigrants. I'm Julie Walker.
Democrats respond to intra-party tensions and low poll numbers in the first 2 months of President Trump's second term. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Investigating the death of a U.S. attorney. I'm Clayton Neville.
Released from the hospital after treatment for double pneumonia, an update on the Pope's health.
On Wall Street, markets opened this morning after a winning Friday and a winning week for stocks. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Columbia University has agreed to implement a suite of policy changes. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
And migrant flights to Venezuela resume. All ahead on America in the Morning. President Donald Trump's border czar says they will not defy a judge's order on deportation flights, but they will continue deporting, insisting that all of the illegal migrants flown from the U.S. to a prison in El Salvador were gang members, and that the actions of the Trump administration is to save lives. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them in to a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? I mean, do they have any due process at all?
Confident. Look, due process. Where was Lake and Ronnie's due process? Where were all these young women that were killed and raped by members of TDA? Where was their due process?
Well, the people that did that should be prosecuted.
On the subway, where's her due process?
President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, says the administration won't defy a court order on its use of an 18th century wartime law to deport Venezuelan immigrants.
We'll abide by the court order as litigated, but my quote was, despite what he thinks, we're going to keep targeting the worst of the worst, which we've been doing since day one, and deporting from the United States through the various laws on the books.
Homan insists Title VIII covers them and says deportees were members of the Tren de Aragua gang.
I don't care what that judge thinks as far as this case. We're going to continue to arrest public safety threats and national security threats. We're going to continue to deport them from the United States.
He spoke on ABC this week.
I've been assured by the highest levels in ICE that every one of these members, every one of these men were members of TDA. There's going to be more litigation on this case, I'm sure. But what was done by the Trump administration was exactly in accordance with federal law, again, enacted by Congress and signed by the president. We're not making this up. We're enforcing laws around the books.
Meanwhile, Homeland Security says it will revoke legal protections for more than 500,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, setting them up for potential deportation. I'm Julie Walker.
Fox News reports Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem will be traveling to Central America, including to the prison in El Salvador where illegal migrants were sent by the U.S., and also includes stops in Colombia and Mexico. Democrat lawmakers took to the Sunday shows facing questions about the party's unpopularity among voters and calls by some for Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to either step down or be replaced after voting for the House Republican stopgap spending bill to avoid a government shutdown. With a recap, here's our John Stolnis in Washington.
On NBC's Meet the Press, Schumer defiant amidst calls from progressive members of his party for him to resign as the party's leader in the Senate.
Look, I'm not stepping down. And let me just say this, Kristen. I knew when I cast my vote against against the government shutdown that there'd be a lot of controversy.
2 weeks ago, Schumer was one of 9 Democrats to vote to approve the continuing resolution that kept spending at current levels through September, handing President Trump and House Republicans a victory in the process, while also avoiding a government shutdown, something Schumer says would have been 20 or 30 times worse for the country.
With Musk and Doge and Trump and this guy Vogt, V-O-G-H-T, I think is how you spell his name, is the head of OMB, they would eviscerate the federal government.
One of the lawmakers mentioned most often to challenge Schumer for his seat is Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who has been on a barnstorming tour with independent Senator Bernie Sanders across the country. On ABC's This Week, Sanders praised AOC's leadership, but wouldn't answer a very specific question.
Would you like to see her join in the Senate?
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
Well, I asked you.
Okay.
You want to do nonsense, do nonsense.
A recent poll by Quinnipiac University found just 4 in 10 Democrats approve of the performance of congressional Democrats. A year ago this time, that number was 75%, a drop of 35 percentage points. Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna on CNN's State of the Union says this could signal change in the party in the midterms.
Are there going to be challenges across the country? Absolutely. Is it going to be a Tea Party? No, because the Tea Party wanted to basically destroy the government, tear down the government. Many Democrats, there's anger, but there's also aspiration.
John Stolnis, Washington.
Former U.S. attorney found dead. We'll have details when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There's snow to start the week for some. Let's find out where. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton with the forecast.
A fairly potent disturbance weakening as it heads into Canada through the day today will be able to take advantage of enough cold air to continue producing snow for a time from the Great Lakes region into mainly northern portions of the Northeast. Storm total snowfall since yesterday is expected to reach at least 6 inches from far northeastern Wisconsin and much of the upper peninsula of Michigan, even into the Arrowhead of Minnesota where the snow is mostly over. However, there can be at least 1 to 3 inches of snow through today from the Adirondacks of northern New York through Vermont, Maine, and all but southern New Hampshire, with amounts up to 6 inches also possible over the highest elevation zones within those locations. Rain will instead be the story to the south of that general area on the warmer side of the storm, and it could be a rather wet morning through some of the major northeast cities where a band of rather steady rain is expected to build and track across areas near the coast from the mid-Atlantic northward. Expect a slow morning commute and keep an eye out for places where the rain leads to ponding on the roads before some improvement eventually arriving through the afternoon. Farther to the south, the risk for thunder will be present from southern North Carolina southward, where there will be more moisture in place, and thunderstorms may even become severe, bringing hail and strong wind gusts from southwestern Georgia and much of northern Florida westward to eastern Louisiana. Rain does continue over parts of the northwest and the northern high plains today as warmer air challenges record highs for some in the west, with most other parts of the nation looking rather dry today. In Marquette, Michigan, expect clouds as snow showers come to an end with a high of 31. For Reno, Nevada, it's a mostly sunny and warm Monday instead with a high of 75. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Authorities in Virginia say a former U.S. attorney who oversaw cases on Russian war crimes and MS-13 was found dead in her home over the weekend. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest.
Police in Alexandria, Virginia say that 43-year-old Jessica Aber was found dead in her Alexandria home after 9 o'clock Saturday morning. Officers responded to a call of an unresponsive person, and the department now investigating the case as a matter of protocol. The chief medical examiner will give the official cause of death. The current U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia said in a statement that although his office is devastated by the loss of Aber, her example of professionalism and grace will be the standard moving forward.
A federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia returned an indictment charging 4 individuals with 4 counts of war crimes in connection with the abduction and torture of a U.S. national in Ukraine last year.
The death reportedly was the result of a long-standing medical issue. Aber was appointed by President Biden in 2021, and she resigned the day President Trump took office for his second term earlier this year. I'm Clayton Neville.
Although appearing very frail, Pope Francis was released from a Rome hospital where he spent the past 5 weeks battling double pneumonia. An update from correspondent Tricia Thomas.
After 5 weeks battling pneumonia here at this hospital in Rome, Pope Francis finally made a public appearance. He was wheeled out in a wheelchair on a balcony behind me and greeted the hundreds of people that were gathered in this piazza. The Pope was looking very frail and just managed to wave with both hands and give the thumbs up. They did give him a microphone so that he could try and speak, and he managed barely, with a very weak voice, to say thank you.
A tutti, e vedo questa signora con I fiori gialli. Che brava.
And then pointed out a woman in the crowd who had yellow flowers and said, brava. Yellow and white are the colors of the Vatican flag.
Correspondent Tricia Thomas. In sports, NCAA men's basketball, the Sweet 16 is set. Play resumes Thursday with big matches on tap, including Alabama against BYU, Florida versus Maryland, Duke against Arizona, and Texas Tech plays Arkansas. Winning week on Wall Street, and CEO calls for Musk's resignation. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. March trading winds down this week. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after the major averages eked out a win on Friday and actually put a winning week in the books. We've got 6 more trading days of March. Stocks are on pace for a losing month. President Trump with another tariff tease, though, on Friday, hinting at possible flexibility. But the damage is done.
I mean, it's been pretty shocking how quickly sentiment deteriorated. I can understand for consumers, but for CEOs, that's been a shock. You know, CEO confidence has fallen, and they've kind of been sitting on their hands.
Fundstrat's Tom Lee on CNBC. With 6 trading days left in the quarter, the Magnificent 7 stocks, well, they're hardly magnificent this year.
So-called Magnificent 7 stocks have been anything but magnificent lately. In fact, they've been downright lousy. NVIDIA, now with its 4th negative week in the last 5, really hasn't made almost any money in about 9 months. Microsoft says, yeah, hold my beer. Microsoft is down 8 sessions in a row, the longest losing streak since the financial crisis of 2008. Google, just as bad, down 6 out of the last 7 weeks. Amazon, also not delivering. 7th losing week in a row. Tesla, the worst of the bunch, 9 straight down weeks, back to the same price it was in late 2020. Meta, the only one of the bunch that is higher this year, and one lonely bright spot this week. Apple, it is the only name to end the week positive.
CNBC's Brian Sullivan. Tesla trade-ins have hit a record high, according to Edmunds. Owners are trying to get rid of their Teslas. Many don't want to be associated with CEO Elon Musk. Some investors are hoping Musk steps down from the car company.
Not only is he not working at Tesla, he's personally damaging the brand on a daily basis. And he's put a lot of Tesla owners like me who want to continue to drive. I want to drive my Cybertruck with pride. And instead, it's like I'm worried that somebody's going to vandalize my car. And this is a reality that all Tesla owners face because of Elon's actions and Elon alone. I own the stock. I love the company, and I want to see people feel great about the company. And we've gone from a point of pride, and it was a premium brand, to now we're like the brand value is worse than Toyota.
That's Gerber Kawasaki CEO Ross Gerber on CNBC. Cleveland Cliffs shares were down last Friday after the Minnesota Star Tribune reported that the steel producer will idle 2 factories and cut hundreds of jobs. It comes as car makers have reduced their orders. It's all amid uncertainty tied to President Donald Trump's tariff policies. On today's watch list, we get earnings from home builder KB Home, Disney ABC with its popular Bachelor series. The season finale is tonight.
All right, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, deportation flights resume after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Deportation flights to Venezuela have resumed after a weeks-long standoff between Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and the Trump administration. Fox News is reporting that a flight carrying 199 illegal migrants, including members of the violent Tren de Aragua gang, touched down in Venezuela after first landing in Honduras yesterday afternoon. Maduro had originally refused to receive the flights after Trump announced that the U.S. would terminate a Biden-era permit allowing Chevron to export Venezuelan oil. Terms of the deal made between the White House and Venezuela was not disclosed. Well, after the Trump administration announced they would block federal funding to a number of colleges and universities over anti-Israel and transgender stances, Columbia University has agreed to make policy changes. Lisa Dwyer reports.
Columbia University has agreed to implement a suite of policy changes, including overhauling its rules for protests inside academic buildings, and will conduct an immediate review of its Middle Eastern Studies department. It will also ban the wearing of face masks on campus for the purpose of concealing one's identity. The announcement comes 1 week after the Trump administration ordered the Ivy League school to comply with a range of orders in order to continue to receive federal funding. The Trump administration pulled $400 million in research grants and other federal funding and had threatened to cut even more over the university's handling of protests against Israel's military campaign in Gaza. That ultimatum was widely seen in academia as a stunning attack on academic freedom. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Monday, March 24th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Protesters prepare for the Tesla takedown. I'm Rich Johnson.
Arrest made after a mass shooting at a park in New Mexico. I'm Clayton Neville.
Remembering boxing legend George Foreman. Several journalists sue the Trump administration. The measles outbreak worsens. And Second Lady Usha Vance will make her first diplomatic trip abroad.
A new AI robot can likely make coffee better than you. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
How did the new Snow White fare at the theaters this weekend? I'm Kevin Carr.
On Tuesday, the National Medal of Honor Museum opens in Arlington, Texas. I'm Donna Warder.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Always on the lookout for thunderstorms. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton has the Monday forecast.
As the storm centered over the Great Lakes continues to make its way toward Canada, a cold front associated with this feature will trail southward from the Ohio and Tennessee valleys as it approaches the eastern seaboard. The southern end of this front is expected to be particularly active, especially early in the day, thanks to an abundance of Gulf moisture, and this means that there will be a risk for thunderstorms to turn severe through the evening hours within a corridor from eastern Louisiana, including New Orleans, across the Florida Panhandle into southern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. These storms may bring hail, localized damaging winds of up to 70 miles per hour, and some intense downpours, with the risk for thunder extending into the Carolinas. Farther to the north, a warm front will instead be the focus for some steadier rain through at least the morning hours from around the nation's capital northward through the I-95 corridor into places like Philadelphia and New York, leading to slow travel from ponding on roadways. As far to the north and east as Boston, rain could very well last into the late afternoon or possibly even early evening hours. The northern side of the same storm will reach a much colder air mass in place, leading to some snow instead for much of Michigan, as well as the high terrain of northern New York State and northern New England, where a general 1 to 3 inches of snow may fall today, along with higher amounts possible at the highest peaks. Otherwise, rain continues at times for yet another day across parts of the Northwest, especially over western Washington state, though generally not as heavy as on Sunday. Some showers and areas of steadier rain spill eastward over the northern Rockies and parts of the western Dakotas, but for much of the rest of the nation from the Mississippi River westward, it's looking like a rather dry start to the week, with warm conditions over much of the West. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, Apple. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The growing protests of Trump administration cuts to federal programs and firings of federal workers continue to hit the most famous company owned by the face of the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk, protests that have sparked outrage from both the Attorney General and President Trump, who are decrying the acts, including vandalism, as domestic terrorism. Correspondent Rich Johnson has more on what's being called the Tesla takedown.
The attacks on Tesla dealerships and vandalism aimed at Tesla vehicles has spread across the nation to the point where President Trump wants a harsh response.
Well, I view these people as terrorists just like others. When I looked at those showrooms burning and those cars, not one or two, like 7, 8, 10 burning, exploding all over the place. These are terrorists.
In the Oval Office last week, Trump implied that the Tesla attacks are worse than the January 6th attacks on the U.S. Capitol. And he wants those caught to face federal charges and perhaps even imprisoned in El Salvador.
You didn't have that on January 6th, I can tell you. You didn't have anything like that on January 6th, which is sort of amazing because on January 6th, the Democrats were talking. Nobody was killed other than a very beautiful young woman.
As for the man behind the electric vehicles,
it's really come as quite a shock to me that there's this level of really hatred and violence from the left.
Elon Musk, speaking to Sean Hannity on Fox News, defended his firm and himself.
Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things.
But the link between the Tesla vehicles and the Tesla CEO has become too much for some owners, like Arizona Democrat Senator Mark Kelly.
Every time I get in this car in the last 60 days or so, it reminds me of just how much damage Elon Musk and Donald Trump is doing to our country. Talking about slashing Social Security, cutting health care benefits for poor people, for seniors. It's one bad thing after the next.
Kelly posted that video earlier this month after what he said was his last drive to work in his Tesla. And the biggest protest yet could come this Saturday. Texas Democrat Representative Jasmine Crockett is especially looking forward to it.
On March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes.
Organizers of the Tesla takedown say there will be at least 500 events at Tesla showrooms and charging stations, not just in the U.S., but around the world. I'm Rich Johnson.
Police in New Mexico say 4 suspects are in custody after a mass shooting at a local park. Audio of the moments when gunfire erupted provided by the Las Cruces Community Watch. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Oh, what the? What?
Four suspects, including 2 17-year-olds and a 15-year-old, are charged with multiple counts of murder connected to a mass shooting at an unsanctioned car show at a park in Las Cruces, New Mexico. It happened Friday night.
As of right now, there are 15 people that are injured and 3 that have passed away. This is a huge crime scene with a lot of moving parts. It will take time to process it thoroughly and reopen everything.
Las Cruces Police Chief Jeremy Strong told reporters the victims who were killed were 19, 18, and 16 years old. The injured victims ranged in age from 16 to 36.
The investigation so far reveals that there was an altercation between 2 groups of people, and that altercation escalated to gunfire between both groups. Several other people were also injured in the crossfire.
It's an area the chief said has a reputation for crime.
That area has been troubled with crime. In spite of some of the efforts, we are still struggling with that, obviously.
Witnesses describe some of the victims getting help from other car show goers, wrapping their wounds and calling for help. The Las Cruces Police Department says it is getting help on the investigation from the FBI, as well as state police in New Mexico and the sheriff's office, as well as the ATF. I'm Clayton Neville.
Reaction from around the world after one of the most iconic boxers in history has died. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports on the passing of George Foreman.
You're not going to see me back up.
I refuse.
George Foreman, the glowering heavyweight who became a lovable champion, has died.
I think Muhammad Ali and I did something for the world because people in Saudi Arabia, China, Japan, all over Africa, Europe, they all stood up at weird hours of the morning and night to see that fight.
The fearsome heavyweight who lost the Rumble in the Jungle to Muhammad Ali before authoring an inspiring second act as a 45-year-old champion and a successful businessman was 76.
You know, it's two of the best squaring off, but I wouldn't have taken that fight. No, if I had to do all over again, I would watch films and I would have seen. Leave that one alone.
A native Texan, Foreman began his boxing career as an Olympic gold medalist who inspired fear as he climbed to the peak of the heavyweight division by stopping Joe Frazier in 1973. He was best known as the face of the George Foreman Grill, a rudimentary cooking machine which sold more than 100 million units. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Coming up next, former Voice of America workers sue the administration. Update on the Texas measles outbreak. And Robert Workman recaps the weekend in NCAA men's college basketball when America in the Morning returns after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. The latest lawsuit against the actions of the Office of Government Efficiency and the Trump administration comes from several former journalists at the Voice of America. 6 former VOA journalists, including the outlet's former White House bureau chief, sued members of the Trump administration, including Kari Lake, the special advisor named to VOA, as defendants. The complaint argues that the president violated the First Amendment, dismantling the media organization by bypassing Congress. Voice of America was founded by the federal government in 1942 to counter Nazi propaganda and later grew to counter Russia and other misinformation from nations including Cuba, China, Iran, and North Korea. Texas health officials are predicting the length of the measles outbreak will worsen in the Lone Star State despite the increase in vaccination rates. Correspondent Marcela Sanchez reports.
It's been 2 months since the measles outbreak began in West Texas, and local public health officials say cases are expected to continue rising for several more months. They also estimate the number of cases could be an undercount, but there has also been an increase in people getting the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine in Texas and New Mexico, just not as much of an increase as health officials would like. And although the vaccination demand has increased, officials say they hope to see vaccination rates go up in affected communities. The outbreak in Texas has largely spread in under-vaccinated Mennonite communities. It's hit 14 counties in Texas and 2 in New Mexico, with 4 possible cases in Oklahoma. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
Second Lady Usha Vance will travel to Greenland this week, becoming the latest U.S. official to visit the Danish territory since President Trump announced his desire to bring the island under U.S. control. Energy Secretary Chris Wright and National Security Advisor Mike Walls will join the vice president's wife as part of the American delegation. Their itinerary includes visiting historical sites and attending a national dog sled race, according to the White House. President Trump has stated that American ownership of Greenland is a necessity for national security due to its strategic location in the Arctic between North America and Europe. Both Greenland's government and Denmark have resisted the idea. America in the Morning continues. Well, the World Happiness Report is out with its #1 country for living. It's a place that has introduced the wife-carrying races. They're famous for ice swimming. They've got the highest concentration of heavy metal bands in any nation, and they're home for air guitar championships and reindeer racing. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports on where this utopia on Earth exists.
The study finds Nordic nations in general rank among the top places for expected and actual return of lost wallets. Managing Director Alexandra Peth suggests the secret of Finland's success could be trust.
People trust each other in Finland, and I think like on many levels in the society, we try to support each other.
While Helsinki resident Juni Puhonen tells the AP it helps to cultivate calmness.
We are really calm, so we have the time to think about things like live our life really peacefully.
The top happiest countries include 14 Western industrial countries, 2 countries from Latin America and 1 from the Middle East, while the US has fallen to its lowest ever position, and Afghanistan ranks as the unhappiest place to live. Country rankings are based on answers people give when asked to rate their own lives. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
A breakthrough in AI robotics has given your favorite barista something to worry about. A robot that can navigate a kitchen and apparently whip up a good cup of coffee. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
Researchers at the University of Edinburgh have made a robot that can make coffee while responding to real-world changes. This revolutionary breakthrough in AI is not just a robot following preset commands, but it's learning, adapting, and problem-solving all in real time. By combining sophisticated AI with its new refined motor skills, the researchers are bridging the gap between machine intelligence and human-like adaptability. The university researchers believe this could significantly enhance a robot's ability to perform tasks that were previously only available to humans. Rarda Mon-Williams of the University of Edinburgh School of Informatics said that we are glimpsing a future where robots with increasingly advanced intelligence becomes commonplace and human intelligence stems from the integration of reasoning, movement, and perception. He went on to say that AI and robotics have often advanced separately, and our work demonstrates the power of combining these approaches and the growing need to discuss their societal implications. Find me on X at Chuck Palm.
Plenty of hoop action and weekend sports. Let's get after it with our Robert Workman.
The first weekend of the NCAA men's basketball tournament wrapped up with 8 second-round games on Sunday. West top seed Florida rallied past two-time defending national champion Connecticut 77-75. All-American guard Walter Clayton Jr. scored 13 of his game-high 23 points in the final 8 minutes.
Man, we knew this game wasn't going to be easy, and they got championship pedigree, man. They back-to-back champions. That's a great team. So they'd had that experience, so we knew it wasn't going to be easy. You know, we kept our composure.
The win sends the Gators to the Sweet 16 in San Francisco, where they will meet Maryland, which edged Cinderella 12-seed Colorado State 72-71 on Derek Queen's fadeaway at the buzzer.
When Coach drew up the play, my teammates trusted me and he trusted me. I was a little bit nervous, but I knew we was due for one, and I had to make this.
East number 1 Duke barreled over Baylor 89-66 for a trip to the regional semifinals in Newark, New Jersey against Arizona, which held off former Pac-12 rival Oregon 87-83. Alabama is heading to a third straight Sweet 16 after slamming St. Mary's 80-66. The Tide are also Jersey-bound, set to face BYU. In the Midwest, 3-seed Kentucky handled Illinois 84-75. That gets the Wildcats into the Sweet 16 for the first time in 6 years. They'll face SEC rival Tennessee in Indianapolis. In the Midwest, the day's biggest upset. 6-seed Mississippi blew by 3-seed Iowa State 91-78, taking control with a 12-0 run midway through the first half. The Rebels will meet Michigan State in Atlanta after the Spartans beat New Mexico 71-63 to send Coach Tom Izzo to his 16th Sweet 16. The women's second round concludes tonight. Top seeds UCLA and South Carolina are already into the regional semifinals, with USC and Texas looking to join them with wins today. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, a new honor for Medal of Honor recipients after these messages. Number 1 at the box office this weekend, but less than what Disney was expecting. And 2 other films got even worse news. Kevin Carr reports.
This weekend's box office numbers might spell trouble for the Snow White remake. Or maybe not.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all?
The live-action adaptation of Walt Disney's first full-length animated feature landed in the top spot with an unremarkable $43 million. That's a sizable debut, but nowhere near the numbers generated by Beauty and the Beast or The Lion King. And it's even below Dumbo, a low bar in the live-action remake genre.
Did I frighten you?
However, if this film has legs like December's Mufasa, it could do well in the long run.
Who's the suspect?
Your wife.
Steven Soderbergh's spy thriller Black Bag climbed to the number 2 spot with $4.4 million, an excellent hold for the adult-centric drama.
We're on the brink of war. I can't trust anyone.
Disney's other contender, Captain America: Brave New World, jumped up into 3rd place with $4.1 million. There's some staying power for this comic book film that has finally cracked $400 million worldwide.
Nothing was working out, and I wanted to get off of Earth.
Mickey 17 tumbled to 4th place with $3.9 million, looking grim for Studio Warner Brothers, who is expected to lose $75 million on the theatrical release.
You're gonna love this.
And rounding out the top 5 with $3.8 million was last week's champ Novocaine.
You can take a punch.
That's quite a stumble for the action comedy, but with the sparse $18 million budget, it should still break even. I'm Kevin Carr.
A museum is opening this week in Texas, one that honors those who've sacrificed for our nation's military and tells the stories of Medal of Honor recipients. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
On Tuesday, the National Medal of Honor Museum opens in Arlington, Texas. It highlights the lives and service of Medal of Honor recipients from the Civil War to the global war on terrorism. Chris Cassidy is CEO and says the idea gained momentum as World War II medal recipients got older.
They're all wanting to know, well, I've got all my equipment, my gear, my notes, my letters from when I was in World War II. What do I do with it now?
Jack Jacobs is a retired U.S. Army colonel who was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions in the Vietnam War.
This is the only way we're going to be able to influence the future and how people think, not necessarily about valor, or not only about valor, but about the values that are really, really important.
More than 3,500 people have received the Medal of Honor, which is awarded by Congress for risking one's life in combat beyond the call of duty.
Everything in American life not only can be, but always is, they are all accomplished by ordinary people who come to the conclusion that something has to be done and they're going to do it. That's what happens in combat, but it also happens in everyday life.
I'm Donna Warder.
We thank all veterans for their service. America in the Morning for Monday, March 24th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.